Welcome to Think Like a CEO. Today's episode is going to be impactful for you. We're going to be talking about the decision process of a CEO, the art of decision making, and what's the difference between an average business and a company that's an elite company. It comes down to one thing. It comes down to the decision making of the CEO. And you look at a football team, a basketball team, what determines whether the team is successful? It's whether or not they have a good coach. You have many players that have great aptitude, but yet if they don't have a good coach, the team usually doesn't do well. And so as a CEO, come on, we are the coach of our company. If you're a business entrepreneur, you're the CEO, the CFO, the COO. You do everything until you can scale and begin to hire someone. But the decision-making process will determine how impactful your company is and the success of your company. And so there's a challenge there. You know, many times as business people, we struggle with making decisions. And sometimes we don't want to make the unpopular decision. We want people to have positive feedback but sometimes we've got to make the hard decisions when it comes to managing the budget, when it comes to the direction of the company. Not all the decisions we make are going to be popular. So how do we deal with it? We're going to talk about that. Maybe you struggle with making decisions sometimes. We get into people when I'm coaching them sometimes and what I call analysis paralysis. They're over analyzing everything. And I have to say, hey, just make a decision. You have all the information, but sometimes the information overload, it doesn't always help us in making decisions because there's so much information we get overwhelmed with that. But we got to break out an analysis paralysis and come to the place where we'll make the decisions that are in the best interest of our company. We're going to talk about that today. So let's jump in. Before we do that, I want to let you know we have a free resource for you. It's the Business Marketing and Health Assessment. We want to help your business to be healthy and prosperous and successful in this year. And so you can go, it's in the descriptions. It's totally free. It's going to help analyze your business. Where are you at in the decision-making process? Where are you at in the health of your company? And then we'd love to evaluate that with you. Free resource that's great for you. So all right, let's jump in. Let's talk today about the decision-making formula that I call it. And so successful CEOs don't just make decisions, they follow a process that ensures clarity. It helps them to have confidence. How can you be confident as a CEO in making decisions? We're going to break that down for you today. So we need to understand that the main role of a CEO is decision making. If you are the CEO, you are the decision maker, and so the buck stops with you. We have a new president here in America, and President Trump is now the CEO of the executive branch of government. And so he's the one who makes the decisions. And so he's come in very quickly. He's a decisive leader, whether you like him or not. And just in his first month, things are happening that didn't happen for 4 years under the previous administration. It all boils down to him being a strong decision maker. Now, we can make wrong decisions, but we need to follow the process and make the right decisions. So the CEO's job is not to make all of the decisions. It's to make decisions that move the company forward. If we have poor decision making in the company, what happens? We're going to have bottlenecking. We're going to have lost revenue. We're going to miss opportunities. Now let's talk about the decision making process. There's basically 3 decisions that CEOs make. So the first decision is what we call the low impact decision. These are decisions that are not detrimental to the company. They are reversible. So that means it's not going to hurt anything. You know, you make the small decisions like, oh, you know, what color of our brand are we going to use on an advertising? As long as it's on brand and your people have that instruction, it doesn't really matter. And so we don't want to be micromanaging, spending all of our time, all of our energies on reversible decisions that have low impact. We talked a lot about that last week in the episode. So check it out if you didn't check it out. These decisions we need to delegate. Now, again, delegation is not relegation. You still want to be aware of things and make sure things are on course and deadlines and things are running accordingly, but don't spend your time on these low impact decisions. Now, the second type of decision we have are the medium impact. So these are decisions that are irreversible. So these are decisions that involve making things that we have to quickly make decisions. They have an impact on those things, but they are irreversible. So maybe it's changing, a supplier, launching a new product, things like that are medium risk decisions. We need to evaluate those things and put energy into those things. So those are things that we should be focused on as a CEO. And then finally, we have the high impact decisions. I call these the power move decisions. What would it be? Relocating our business. What would it be? Launching, changing direction in our services or our product, or changing a factory that is developing our products. All of these kind of things, they are high impact. Hiring someone. That could be sometimes medium impact, but in a high level position, it's high impact. So these are decisions that are irreversible. Or it will cost a lot of money for you to try to reverse those things. And so when you're investing in your branding and you've done all your print and you've educated all of your staff and now you want to go and change your branding, these are high impact things which definitely you need to be involved in those decisions. So it's very important for us to understand we have low impact, medium impact, high impact decisions. Don't be spending all your time on the low impact, wearing yourself out. Focus on the medium impact and the high impact decisions. So let's talk about this a little bit more and how, in making those decisions, what is the platform or the model that we can use. So I call this the mental models for smarter choices. And the first principle here is the 10-10-10 rule. So we talk about 10-10-10 rule. What are we actually looking at here? How is it going to affect the decision we make in the next 10 minutes? How is it going to affect in the next 10 months? And how is it going to affect in the next 10 years? So again, this would be your short term, medium term, and your long term. So we need to evaluate that in making our decisions. So what's going to be the immediate impact on the company? Sometimes it's not a major impact. It's more going to be something that takes place, in the next 10 months or so towards a year. And so we look at, I mentioned about our president. We have the CEO of the executive branch. He's making decisions about tariffs. He's making decisions about the border, all of those things. And everyone's, the sentiment is high, but they're expecting, hey, this month, we're in the month of February. He just got into office in January, and he's been making amazing decisions for the first month, whether you agree with them or not. I'm just being proactive, positive. But guess what? Those decisions are not going to affect the economy for the next 10 months. There's immediate things, what happened in the short term, just in, the first week. We had a drop in illegals coming to the country. So they're 10-minute impact decisions. There's 10-month decisions, but ultimately, how is it going to affect the direction of the United States in the next 10 years? Now they're only in office for 4 years, but setting a direction if the policies are working. Of course, some may take longer than even 4 years to roll out. And so it's important to understand that's how, just an example of how decisions are made. But for you and your business, in your company, how is it going to affect things in the short term? How is it going to affect things in the next year? And then how is it going to affect things moving forward into long term, to the 5 to 10 year period? So we need to look at those things and look at the impact of the decisions, especially as we talked about, if it's high impact decisions, which means that it's going to affect all three of those areas. Then we need to look at that. It's a medium impact. It's going to affect everything immediately. 10 minutes, we're changing HR. We're changing, how we communicate. We're changing our branding. It's going to have an immediate effect. So we need to understand all of those things and make smarter choices by the impact. What's the positive? What's the negative? And evaluate that before we make our decision. Now, next, as we're making decisions, smarter decisions, we want to talk about what we call the inversion principle. So when I say the inversion principle, what is it? Instead of asking, how do I succeed? We should ask ourselves, what would guarantee failure? So ask yourself, not just how I can succeed, but what would guarantee failure? So we talk about, what is this, kind of playing the devil's advocate a little bit. I'm not talking about being negative because there's always risk in decisions, but if we don't implement this correctly, how would it fail? Personnel. Who are the right people to do this? Who are the wrong people? You could have a great idea, make a great decision, but you got the wrong people doing it. And so you need to evaluate all these things and ask yourself, how is it going to affect the company? And what would bring about a failure and guarantee failure? And then what do? We preempt that to ensure success by looking at the things that would guarantee failure and making sure we don't do those things. And so, again, what would be some things that would guarantee failure? It would be rushing it. We're going to talk about that. What would be the manpower? Not communicating. And the list goes on. So addressing those things to make sure we're not rushing it, because that's any decision you make, especially a major decision that's high impact decision, you need to communicate that clearly. You need to roll it out in a timely fashion so everybody's on board and there's no confusion. I mean, have you ever dealt with someone and you come to a company and they're like, oh, we have a new system and our system's not been tested. It's crashing all the time. I had someone in the financial industry in their company, they upgraded all their software for doing all of their policies and those things. And what happened? The system was not tested properly and the agents were having problems. There were bugs in the system. The approval chain line was not done correctly and things were getting messed up. And it caused a lot of frustration for the agents. It caused a lot of frustration for the customers. And, and what happened? It was just not rolled out correctly. So again, looking at those things, preempting those things, we're always going to have some problems and you have to deal with it along the way and doing that. But yet, did we take time to roll it out and to do it correctly? And because of that, it was not great for the company. And so again, don't just make a change, make a decision, but we need to look at that high impact decision and make sure that we're not going to fail by looking at what could cause failure and addressing those things. All right. Now, in the mental model, what else should we do? I have what I call the 80-20 rule. So when we talk about the 80-20 rule, focus on the 20% of decisions that will produce 80% of your results. Focus on the 20% of decisions that will produce 80% results. So again, this is high impact. We talked about that before. You want to make the decisions that are going to have high impact. And so what are those decisions, those major decisions that are going to affect for the good of your business or of your company? Those are the things that we need to look at. So again, looking at the 10x10 rule, how is it going to affect in the short term, 10 minutes, 10 months, 10 years? What could go wrong in that, addressing those things, and then again, focusing on those high impact decisions, the 20% that's going to affect the 80%. And maybe you're focused on 20%, you're only at 50%. How can we get to that 80% impact? Those are something that we need to look at in refining. So bad CEO thinking is this: how do I get more customers? I just want to make more money. But a smart CEO says, what's the one lever? What's the thing that we could do that can bring about greater profit, that can bring about greater service to our clients? And so it's very important to say, how can we serve our clients at a higher level? How can we give them a higher experience? How can we cause our services to have better impact and have greater quality for the money that they're paying? And looking at those things, that's what's going to help us to impact, not just let's go and make money and then what do we do? We're just trying to rush and do things and not look at the quality. So again, we need to look at things that are going to bring our clients to the next level. And maybe you're out there and you need some coaching on this. We'd love for you, in the descriptions, we have an opportunity for you to book a strategic growth call with one of our brand consultants, our brand strategists, to help your business come to the next level. And you can take advantage of that. Slots are limited, so check it out in the description. We'd love to get a call on you and help you. And sometimes having an outside input, a third party coming in, it adds great value to you. So if you're interested in that, check it out. All right, so let's move a little bit further. I want to talk about the CEO decision filter. How do we focus these decisions? Again, these are the mental models that we need to have, the mental posture, I should say, moving into the decision-making process. But let's break it down. This is a framework that will help you. And if you use this framework as a CEO, you're going to be successful as an entrepreneur in the decisions that you make. Now, the first thing we have to ask is there vision alignment? So when we talk about vision alignment, what is the vision or the mission of our company, the purpose of our company? How does it align with that vision? And so we look at, one of the companies that's very popular out there, and everyone knows Starbucks. And we have a lot of them here. I use their examples a lot about the company, great company. But I saw this week that they released a press statement that the CEO is coming back in and they're wanting to look at how their products align to their vision. And so you don't go to Starbucks to get a milkshake. You go to other places for that. Starbucks is about coffee, drinks. Of course, they have other things, and they've tried to cater to a lot of things, but they've gotten away from their vision of creating an environment, being a coffee shop and focusing on that. So what are they going to do? They're going to cut back on some of their products that are maybe not performing, taking up cost, and not bringing back an ROI, not bringing back a return on their investment. And so we need to evaluate how is it aligning with our vision. So a lot of people come with good ideas, but what is our vision? If your focus is on coffee and having a coffee shop experience, do that. Don't try to serve lunch and breakfast and dinner and become a restaurant. You can very much get away from your vision by trying to expand. And what happens? You become a jack of all trades, but a master of none. Another great example of this is Mac. And you look at Macintosh when they started out, now of course it's Apple, but they were doing printers, they were doing other kinds of electronics, they had many, many products out there. But at that time, Steve Jobs came in and he said, hey, we're gonna stop doing all these products, we're gonna get rid of the printers, get rid of the other electronics, and we're gonna focus on a few things. We're gonna focus on iPods where people can listen to music, we're gonna focus on our iPads, we're gonna focus on our iPhones, and we're going to focus on our computers and our Apple computers, our Mac computers. And so they refined everything to get back to their vision. And when they began to do that, they went out of not being profitable, and the next year, profits started coming in. Why? They aligned to their vision. So does your product align to your vision? Do your services align to your vision? If not, you need to reevaluate that and look at the decisions. How does it align to your vision? There's a lot of great ideas out there, and sometimes we cross-pollinate. We have people coming in that have different business environments, but again, how does it align to our vision? There's a lot of things that we can do, even as a company here at Pure Media, which is one of our companies that we have here, and this podcast is sponsored by them. We are here to help people in their branding. We're help to people in their creative. We're help them in their marketing. We're very focused in helping them to scale their business. Some people come and they may have an idea and they want us to just do some design or do something, but it's not really going to maximize them. And so sometimes we have our main products that we know are going to help people. We can downsize it, downsell it, I should say, and help them. But there's other stuff that we're just not interested in. We have people calling us and asking us to partner with them and do products and these kind of things. That's not what we're doing. We're not here to just sell products. Our products are our services. Our products are things to help you and your business. So we need to be very focused on what we're doing. We're not into retail. And so it doesn't flow with our vision. Now, you can make a lot of money in retail. I say there's 1,000,001 ways to make money. There's more than that. But does it flow with your vision? Because if you get too distracted, you get too diluted, then no one's going to know what you really stand for. So if you talk about Starbucks, people know it's coffee. You talk about Coffee Bean, they know it's coffee. If you're a boba shop, you do boba. And they'll say, if your services, what is your services? You need to be very clear on what you're doing, and it needs to be communicated in your vision. Have you ever gone to a website or you've gone into a business and you look and they're just trying to do everything, and you wonder, are they really good at anything, or they're just trying to throw everything on the wall and see what sticks? And so we don't want to allow that to come into our business. Again, do the decisions. Does it help with furthering our vision and what we feel we're wanting to do, what we're passionate about? And stay focused. There's a power of focus. When we are focused on what our vision is, then we are going to be successful, all right? And so don't just look at your competitors. Don't just look at what they're doing. Stay focused on your business, and as we do that, we're going to be successful. So it's very important for us to look at the vision alignment. All right, also, we need to look at the financial impact, which is a very big one. What is the financial impact? Is it going to improve cash flow? Is it going to improve cash flow? If it's not, how long is it going to be before we are profitable? We're in business to make money. Many entrepreneurs, they don't make it past the first 3 years in business because usually it takes 3 to 5 years to break even. But we think, oh, I've got a great product, I've got a great service, everybody's gonna want this. And we're not realistic in our budgeting, we're not realistic in our projections. And so it's great when that happens and we do have those stories of those businesses that just took off and became profitable in the first 6 months. But that is a rarity. And so when I'm coaching my business clients, I have to let them understand that they need to be realistic. I always tell people under project and overperform. And when we're excited about something, we think we've got the greatest thing since since toothpaste or since peanut butter. You think you're going to want it, or your service is like, we're going to offer the best quality, and you can see all of the brand gaps in your competition. But yet people don't know that. You've got to communicate that. You've got to get out there. You've got to build trust in your industry. And so again, how is it going to affect your cash flow? How is it going to affect your profitability? How is it going to affect your profit? And so again, when are you going to get the return on your investment? What is that going to look like? And again, it doesn't have to be immediate, but when are you projecting? And we need to make sure that we are on that projection and that we're following what is realistic for our service, for our business, and for what we are thinking about. All right, and then again, efficiency. Is it efficient? Is it a good use of resources? I talk to people, an example, why my grandma has the most amazing chocolate chip cookie recipe, and, everybody would love these chocolate chip cookies, so I'm going to put that on the market. We're going to market it. Everybody needs to eat chocolate chip cookies. We're going to put all our competitors out of business. But how much does it take to make your grandma's chocolate chip cookie? Well, our profit's only going to be 30%, but yet did you take into account marketing? Did you take into account, of packaging? Did you take into account production? All of these kind of things. What it's going to cost if you're going to be involved in retail, your overhead, and what does that do to your profit margin? If it's not something that have a great profit margin, of course you got the best cookie because you're putting so much money into that cookie, but your competitors can do it for much less. They can produce at a much higher rate. And guess what? They're going to keep their costs low. What are most people going to do? They're going to go for the most affordable product that gives them a certain level of quality. So you can do something at a quality that's too high and you're not having a cost. If you're not having 200, 300, 400% return on that product to cover your cost, and is it worth doing? Well, I love this product. Well, it's great, but yet, is it a viable business? And so, again, we've got to look at that. Is it efficient for the investment of resources to get the return? And how many of those cookies are we going to have to sell even to break even? And so I've run many different type of businesses. One time, we had a nail salon, a spa, and people were coming in, but I had costs for staffing, I had costs for products, I had costs for rental, and our bottom line, I realized how many people I had to do. I had to do at least 500 clients just to break even in a month. How many is that per day? How many staff do I have to need? Looking at that and all that projection, and we did it for a while, but after a while, as the business was profitable, we sold it off. And I said, there's easier ways to make money than having that with all that overhead and those kind of things. Now, that's your passion. You can do it. But what are we getting for our return on our investment? How's the financial impact in terms of profit, cash flow, and efficiency? All right. Also, you've got to look at your team and your execution. Do you have the manpower in place? Well, we want to do this product. We want to do this service. Well, do you have the staffing to be able to do it? Where's the capacity of your staff currently? Are you going to have to hire people? Are you going to have to retrain your staff? All those kind of things are very important. So again, having the right people, having the right resources in place to begin to do it, to begin to make it happen. And then how's the execution going to be? Is it complicated? Is it time consuming? Again, you need to evaluate all those things, and and again, is it hard to implement or easy? And evaluating those things. So these, again, is going to help us in making the decisions. Don't just make the change for the sake of making change. And I know people sometimes as leaders, they come in and they just want to do new things. They always want to make changes, but it causes an upheaval to the workflow, to the process. And again, what is going to be the difficulty in execution? Has your team bought into it? Your manpower, is your team on board? When you're discussing, are they all resistant to it? How is that going to work? Why are they resistant? And what are the changes that we need to be? So we need to evaluate our team. We need to evaluate how hard is it to execute that in terms of the difficulty as well as the time frame and all of those things. And then very importantly, this is important to every business owner, to every CEO. What is the risk versus the reward? What's the risk level versus the reward? As entrepreneurs, as CEOs, business owners, we have to take risk, but we don't want to be reckless. So, in talking about risk, we're not talking about being reckless. We want to do what I call calculated risk. So we've calculated, because we've got our information, because we're going through this process as a CEO and analyzing all those things, we can make an educated decision. Yes, there's going to be risk involved. Nothing is guaranteed. I know some entrepreneurs, we say entrepreneurs work 70 hours a week, so they don't have to work 40. You're going to have to work hard. There's an investment that's there, but what's the reward? You can own your time. You're buying back your time. And most millionaires you look at per capita, they're entrepreneurs, they're business owners, they're not, or high-level executives in companies. They're not just working for someone as 9 to 5. And so the chances of that being successful, there's a risk to do that. Your security is not always there. Your benefits, all those things. You're the business owner, you're the CEO. The buck stops with you. All of those things, it involves risk, right? But again, what is the reward? Again, what's the ROI? What's the return on your investment, owning your time? This thing becomes profitable. We broke even in 3 years, and now we're profitable. And what does that profit look like? How are we scaling that profit? And so we need to look at all those things. What's the risk versus the reward? And so analyzing those things. How does it align to our vision? What's the financial impact? How is it affecting our team? How easily are we able to execute it? What's the risk versus reward? And then finally, as we look at the CEO template, what is the speed of implementation? And this is very important because we could have good ideas, but we don't just want a good idea, we want a great idea. So there's a difference in good versus great. And so define what is great for your company. What is great? Fast return. Ease of implementation. Excitement of the team. All right. So all these things are important. That's what makes it great versus just being good. You can have a good idea. How is this, how's the impact going to be? Again, we want high impact things. And so just looking at what's good, looking what's great, and again, how's what's the return of investment going to be like? What's the ease of implementation by your team in the strategy? What's the excitement of the team? Is the team excited about moving forward, excited about this new thing that you're doing? All these things are going to help with the speed of your implementation. But on the contrary, if it's negative, what? You're not going to have a fast return on your investment. Well, is that something you want to take the risk on and invest in? Okay. Is it difficult to implement? Is it a major learning curve for you and your team? Are those things that you want to do? Is your team not excited about it? If you have all negativities in those points and it's not checking, positive or negative, and it's all negative, then it's going to be very difficult to begin to implement. And so, again, we have to ask, is this going to slow us down? Versus, is it going to cause us to have a quick return? A quick return or value. And so again, in every business we have the dreamers, and we're always coming up with ideas, and I love people like that. They're the creative people, but sometimes they're not good at implementation. They're always dreaming and always thinking of new ideas, but then they never finish the idea. The team's not able to implement the idea. So we need those that are the refiners that can come in, and we need implementers, those that can take the dream, take the vision, and begin to break it down into processes, begin to break it out in the time frame, and begin to implement it. And so in that implementation, what's the speed of it? Are we gonna have a quick return? Is it gonna add quick value? Again, going back to the 10-minute rule, the 10-month rule, the 10-year rule. I'm not gonna do something that I'm only gonna see a return in 5 to 10 years, okay? Because in business, that's a long time, and markets changing all the time. I wanna see something, come on, if I'm gonna start seeing something in the next 10 months, I'm gonna start seeing something in the next year, and 2 years, 3 years, and I believe it's gonna bring a great ROI to the business. We talked about that and the value that's there. Then I'm willing to take the risk because there's a reward and it's not going to be complicated. I want to make this process as easy as possible. And sometimes that's what we need to do as CEOs. We need to make it easy to implement. We need to bring the excitement into the team. We need to look at our bottom line and managing our budget so that we can do those things and looking at the financial impact. And when we've done those things, come on, then we are able to begin to implement it. And so the speed of implementation is there. We can move fast on it. Now, not all decisions are equal. And so again, we need to look at what is the medium impact, what's the high impact, and we want to be spending our time where there's high impact, where what? We can see a great return of our investment, a quick return where there's value. It's not going to slow us down. It's going to expand us. Our team's excited about it. We're set up for success. There's still risk. It may fail, but we're able to refine it and as we go along. So again, ask yourself what I call the 2-minute rule. If a decision can be made in 2 minutes or less, make it and move it on. Look at the reversible versus the irreversible, all right? If it's not able to be reversed, do I really want to make that decision? I need to have all my information. I need to do all of my market research. I need to get everything in place so that I can move. So speed versus accuracy, when to move fast and when to move slowly. So again, is it reversible? If it's not reversible, move slowly. If it's irreversible, move slowly. If it's reversible, then you can make a quick decision. It's not going to have great impact. All right? And then again, as we're moving forward, test it and see if it's working. If it's reversible, then test it. Be fast to test it. But if it's irreversible, then what do you need to do? You need to do due diligence. Which involves your research, your team discussions. So again, we want to do that test. Is it irreversible? Move slowly. Do your due diligence. You don't want to go out and just make decisions to make a decision and then it ends up causing you a lot of headache and you're losing profits, okay? But again, if it's reversible, you can move fast. You can make a quick decision. Just test it out. If it's not working, let's do something else and give our team the flexibility in doing those things. Another thing I want to talk about in making decisions, and again, if you have questions, put them in the comments. We want to answer your questions that are there. Hit the share button, share this with somebody, subscribe to our channel. If you've not yet subscribed to our channel, we want to bring you more content, helps us to get up in the algorithm and get in front of more people. And I believe we're adding value to you for free today. And so make sure you help us to do that. Now let's talk about our gut instinct versus the data. When to trust your intuition. As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, CEO, when I have overridden my gut, my intuition. You know, have you ever felt everything looks great, the data looks great, you know, it looks exciting, the research looks exciting, everybody's excited, but I don't feel good in my intuition. Something's just not right. I don't really feel good about this thing. I've made mistakes to override that. Why? Because your data can be wrong. Your data can be slanted. And so people are just excited. They're just giving you the pros. They're not giving you the cons in the data. So, you know, you've got to look at the pros and the cons in the data and make sure it's not just the positive side, but what are the things that are there. But when in your heart, if you feel that something's not right, slow things down and begin to evaluate it. Great CEOs never ignore their gut. And at the same time, on the positive, sometimes when it comes to your team not being excited, it comes to those things, in your gut instinct, I know this can work. And so sometimes we've got to be the leaders too and lead the followers, but get your team motivated. Don't just go, I'm the CEO, I'm the boss, do what I tell you to do. No, get your team on board, but follow your gut instinct, whether it's to move forward or not to move forward. Listen to your team, take value, evaluate the data, but sometimes you just have to take risk. And we look at companies that were, you know, in bankruptcy, and the next year, you know, they came out of that. They were losing profits, and they made the adjustments. I gave the example of Mac back in the day, and it was a great decision. Now they were a multi-trillion-dollar company because they made the decision to focus on those 4 products versus trying to do everything. And so, again, follow your intuition. When to rely on your intuition? Do you have a pattern for success in that area? Is it your expertise? If not, then maybe you need to rely on the expertise of others because it's something that's new to you. Rely on the data. Again, the financial data, the market research, the gap in your market. All of those things are important. Don't override that just because you're excited about something. The best CEOs blend intuition and blend analytics. So what do we need? We need our intuition, and we need analytics. So blend them both. It's not one or the other. Okay? Follow your intuition. If you need more analytics, then get more information. Oh, I spelled that wrongly. I was like, that doesn't look right. All right, analytics. My brain's going faster than my pen. Analytics. Look at the analytics and go back and reanalyze it. Go back, relook at the data, do some more research, but follow your intuition. When these line up, when you have the analytics, you have the information, the research, and you have that gut feeling to do it, that's where you're going to be successful. Remember that decision isn't final until it's implemented. And don't be quick to implement things, especially if it's going to have high impact. Now, we want to also let you know we have a free brand builders training video that's available to you. It's a great resource. Go down in the description, giving a lot of free information, value. We want to add value to you and help you to be successful as a CEO. So you can go and check that out, find out some top secrets of successful companies and what they do to build their brand and help you to be successful. All right, let's continue and let's just evaluate today as we kind of come in for the landing. In the execution, decisions must be implemented. So again, when you're talking about execution, who is the team to implement? All right, what is the time frame? And it's got to be realistic. I know as a high driver, I want this done, I want it done yesterday, but it's not going to get done yesterday. You just came up with the idea today. You just had a meeting with your team. How long is it going to take for your team to execute it, to implement? What's the cost involved? Looking at your budget, all those things, and make the decisions to implement it. So again, it's not something that happens overnight. Again, your speed of implementation, you don't want to wear your team out and just driving them and they're rushing everything. You want it to be a realistic time frame, and again, under target and begin to overperform. Very important in this process. So what are some key takeaways today? Follow this process as a CEO. Again, does it align to your vision? Looking at the vision, we talked about that today. If you're in the midst of making a decision, how does it align to your vision? The second thing that we looked about is what the financial impact. The third thing that we looked at is the team and the execution. How is it going to affect your team? Don't execute your team. All right. How is it going to be executed by your team? And what's the risk versus the reward? If it's high risk, high reward, consider it. If it's low risk, high reward, then it's easier to make a decision. If it's if it's medium risk and no reward, then the writing's there on the table. Evaluate that. And then again, finally, we just looked at the speed of implementation. When you have all these 5 things, you've evaluated all these things, you can make an educated decision. Again, there's still going to be some risk involved, but come on, if there's a great ROI, if your team's excited, it's a realistic time of implementation, it makes sense for your business, then you move forward and you're going to have a successful decision, all right? And so it's very important that we have an understanding of those things, and then we also begin to understand that speed versus accuracy is very important. When we look at the speed versus accuracy, as we are beginning to make action steps, we need to look at the speed versus accuracy. As we're making decisions, when we talk about speed, we talk about the implementation, all of those things, but we want what? We want to have quality. So we talk about accuracy. Is there going to be quality? Don't be rushing something out and do it at a low level. Do it at a high level. You want to do it, when we talk about quality, there's excellence. There's impact. So sometimes maybe the ROI isn't as high, but the impact in serving people is going to be great. Then we can consider all of those things. So speed versus accuracy. And based on those things, we determine whether or not we're going to move forward when we've gone through and we've looked at all of those issues, and we begin to evaluate the speed versus the accuracy. And again, how is it impactful in those 10 minutes, those 10 months, those 10 years? Is there quality? Is there excellence? Is there impact? It's aligning to our vision. It's going to be having a financial return. It's your team's excited. You're clear on your execution. There's a high risk versus reward, or a low risk versus high reward. That's the best. Then you can begin to determine the speed of your implementation and move forward into those things. So I want to just give you some of the questions that some people have written into us, and it's very important for concerning these issues. And so people have asked, how do I balance trusting my gut with using data? I don't think it's one or the other, but again, even if the data makes sense, but your gut says no, I'll err on going with my gut, because sometimes the data can be wrong, it can be outdated. The person preparing the data, it was slanted. So again, don't override your intuition. Go back and look at the data again. Go back and look at the process again. Maybe there's some things that need to be refined in implementation and things we talked about. But again, don't override your gut. You don't want to be shooting yourself in the foot and then, why didn't I listen? We've all said, something told me. not to do it, but I did it. Go with that intuition. Sometimes it's your subconscious picking up on something that you weren't really aware of. Another great question that someone asked this is, what's the biggest mistake CEOs make in decision making? I would say doing it quickly. They don't count the cost. They don't go through this process, and so they have a great idea. Someone comes in, and most CEOs are high driver people, and so we're like, let's just do it. Jump in. I want it done yesterday, and we do those things without going through the process. And what do? We end up learning through failing. And so you can do that many times, but it costs a lot of money. So following this process is going to save you money. It's also not going to wear your team out. And so don't just make a change for making a change. Don't just implement something new. If it's not broken, you don't need to fix it, maybe refine it. But just don't be doing new things. And sometimes as CEOs, as entrepreneurs, we don't like monotony. So we're always thinking of what's the new. But the new is not always better, right? We want the new to follow this process and make sure it's going to help us to be successful. Someone else said, how do I stop second guessing myself? Do your research. Follow this process. If you know you've gone through this process, you've looked at all of the plates that are spinning, you look at all of the details that are there, be confident to make a decision. You have to make a decision. Again, there's risk in making a decision, but you got to take risks. That's why you're the risk taker. That's why you're the head of the company. That's why it starts and it stops with you, or as an entrepreneur, it's the same thing. But again, take calculated risks. Don't be reckless. All right? Someone else asked, how do I speed my team's decision-making process up? Some people are just afraid to make decisions. I mean, sometimes you ask people, they can't even make a decision what they want to order at a menu. Have you ever been with someone, they're like, oh, let me think about it. And they're going around and around, they keep talking, and I'm like, hey, chicken, beef, or fish. Pick one, seafood. Pick one. They just don't like to make decisions, and they're unsure. Those people are not the people who should be in leadership positions. So you need to hire decision makers. You need to hire people and teach them this process so they are decisive people. I love being around decisive people. We've trained up our children, be decisive. And, if you don't make decisions, someone else is going to make decisions for you. And timing is everything in the market. Timing is everything in business. You can miss your window because you're just in analysis paralysis. So break out of that. If you're a highly analytical person, look at the data, trust the data, trust your gut, and just go for it. All right? Someone else asked, what's the one decision framework every CEO should master? So I think, if you look at me, and let's just go back to that, what's the most important one that is here? I think that it's really the risk versus reward. And so that ultimately is what is a deciding factor in that. All of these other things are great, but again, what's the risk or reward? I think that would be the number one. And then does it flow with your vision? Again, don't try to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. You can, focus on one thing, do it well, focus on one arena, focus on one niche. Now, when you master that, you can move on to something else, but don't try to be doing three things at once. Don't try to, entrepreneurs, we're always trying to start something new. But then our time is spread thin, we're not going to be successful. So again, the risk reward, going back, I think team execution, if you're a good leader, if people aren't excited about something, you can get them excited because excitement is contagious. And so if you're excited, if you're passionate, that's going to resonate through your team. Again, speed of implementation is just about leadership. Financial impact, I think that, those are all things we want to take in and weighing the risk versus reward. But if the reward is high and there's high risk, don't be afraid to take high risk because, come on, it could be the thing that propels you with a new idea into success in your life. So it's very important for us to understand that great CEOs don't ignore their gut. They follow their gut, and they rely on data. They rely on intuition. All those things are very important. Again, speed and smart risk is important, taking those things. And if we follow this, we're going to be able to be successful. So as you're watching today, maybe you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, you're a CEO, identify one decision you've been delaying. Maybe that's holding up your company, your success. What do you need? Do you need more data? Do you need more information? Is it talking to people, coming up with strategy and implementation? And maybe that's the thing you don't really like. Well, who can help you with that. But don't delay in making decisions. Again, timing, as I mentioned earlier, is everything in the market. You don't want your idea, your product, your service, your someone else to come in and fill the market gap because you waited too long to do that. So run it through the 5-point CEO decision filter and begin to do it. If you need help, again, make a call and get on with one of our brand strategists. We'd love to begin to help you. Decisions, and I'll close with this, shape business. If you want us to scale, you must decide faster, smarter, and with confidence. So what do we need to understand? That decisions are very important. Decisions shape businesses. Follow this model. Be a decision maker. Be someone who follows this 5-point process, this framework, and as you are decisive, as you're a person who looks at all the factors, people are going to trust your decision-making process. You're going to bring your company to another level and help them to scale. These CEO frameworks, I hope they've been helpful for you today. Again, hit that share button. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't. Hit the notifications button. We have a lot of free resources there that I spoke about earlier. Check them out. And if you have any ideas for things that you'd like to hear, content you'd like to hear, put it into the chat right to us. We look forward to seeing you in the next episode of Thinking Like a CEO.